Module 9, the law and duty to report. The term child pornography is the legal term used most often. We understand the term is not indicative of the experience and that more accurate terminology needs to be considered. For the purposes of this section, you'll see child sexual abuse material, or CSAM, as a stand-in for child pornography. That said, the definition of child pornography is as follows. Any visual, video, and or image, written or auditory material that shows an individual that is or is depicted to be under the age of 18 engaging in a sexual act or exposing a sexual region. Making CSAM. Anyone who is caught making CSAM, including printing or possessing, for the purposes of publication, is guilty of an indictable offense. This could lead to up to 14 years in prison. Distributing CSAM. Anyone who distributes, sells, advertises, imports or exports, or owns CSAM for the purposes of distribution or making available, if guilty of an indictable offense, could face up to 14 years in prison. Possessing CSAM. Anyone in possession of CSAM can face up to 10 years in prison. It is against the law to access CSAM when the individual access is knowingly viewing CSAM. When we talk about the law in Canada surrounding CSAM and online grooming or luring, it is important to start by knowing what consent looks like for different age groups. Here are a few things to consider. Anyone under the age of 18 years old cannot consent to activities that fall within the sex work or sex trade category. At 16 years old, individuals can make their own decision about sexual activity outside of the sex trade or sex work. The laws surrounding sexting and sexual relationships are dependent on the relationship being consensual and without coercion. If someone is threatening you into sending explicit messages or videos, or if they are in a position of authority or power over you, it cannot be considered a consensual relationship, and it is illegal. Every situation that law enforcement sees is different and is looked at an individual basis in the eyes of the law. One thing that is important to know is that if you send a nude photo or a video through a third-party source, for example, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, etc., there is potential, and it does happen, that the image or video could get sent to the police. This is in place to ensure police are informed and can investigate, if necessary, any situations that could result in child pornography charges. With regard to sending sexually explicit images, if two youth under 18 are in an in-person relationship, it is legal for them to have a sexual relationship, and they can have images of each other, but technically it's illegal to send or receive images or videos, even if both individuals consent. It still considers sending, making, and possessing child pornography. However, police will consider what action to take on a case-by-case basis. If the relationship breaks up, the expectation is that the images and videos are deleted. If you are no longer in a relationship with someone and you still have their sexually explicit videos and images, delete them. Otherwise, this could be seen as possessing child pornography in the eyes of the law, even if both individuals are minors. If two minors are in an online relationship, for example, one person is in Newfoundland and the other is in Ontario and have never met, it's a bit more of a gray area. Charges can be laid, however, every situation is different. There are some limitations, however, when it comes to sexting and being in a sexual relationship. If you are 14 to 15 years old, you can be in a sexual relationship with someone who is less than 5 years older. However, if someone is in a sexual relationship with someone that is 5 years or more older, the young person cannot legally consent to a sexual relationship. The young person may be willing, but cannot legally consent. Similarly, if you're 12 to 13 years old, you can be in a sexual relationship with someone who is less than 2 years older. However, if someone in a sexual relationship with someone that is 2 years exactly or more older, there can be no legal consent. The young person, again, may be willing, but they cannot legally consent. If two young people are not in a relationship and are sending sexually explicit images and videos to each other, this could be seen as possessing and transmitting child pornography, since they are not in a relationship. If the young person is under 12 years old, legally they are not able to consent to any sexual activity, including sending and receiving sexual images and videos. While they may agree to have someone send them a sexually explicit photo or video, their willingness to receive does not mean they have the capacity to legally consent. The onus is placed squarely on the person who sends the sexually explicit material. That person will likely be investigated for luring and or making sexually explicit material available to a child. What if the images and video are shared? If one minor sends a nude or sexually explicit photo or video of themselves and it's circulated to others with or without their consent, the person who shared the material can face child pornography charges. For example, if a relationship ends and one person still has sexual images of their ex, and their new partner finds and decides to distribute those images out of revenge, jealousy, malice, etc., this new partner can then face charges of distributing child pornography. If your picture or video is being sent around after you've sent it privately to someone, or if you know someone who has shared private material, they can be charged with distributing child pornography. Likewise, if someone takes or films material of a sexually explicit nature of another person, with or without consent, and distributes it, they can face further charges. In the 2013 case of Rita Parsons of Nova Scotia, her sexual assault at a house party was filmed and distributed to her peers. This led to her eventual suicide because of the harassment she faced. Two of the men, who were minors at the time, pled guilty to different charges of possession of child pornography and distribution of child pornography. Adults' online communication with a minor. In Canada, if an adult is talking with a youth online who they know to be under the age of 18 for the purpose of engaging in some kind of sexual relationship, this is illegal. Even if the young person believes the intent of the interaction or interactions is to coerce them into a sexual relationship, this may result in charges to the adult. Simply put, online communication is illegal if an adult engages in conversation where the goal is to invite the young person to a sexual encounter, or if the adult makes the young person believe the invitation for a sexual relationship is real. The law takes into account not just the act of communicating, but also the behaviors that could lead to harm. For example, if an adult sends a young person a nude photo of themselves, there needs to be consideration as to why an adult would make sexually explicit material available to a minor. If an adult takes a picture or video of someone under 18 that is sexually explicit without the young person's consent, or asks for the youth to send a picture of themselves nude or partially nude. Duty to report. As per Section 11 of the Children, Youth, and Families Act, duty to report means if you suspect that a child or youth under 18 years old is or may be being abused or neglected by their parents or guardians, you have a legal obligation to report. This includes not just young people who have been or are currently being sexually exploited online by a parent or guardian, but also people who are or may be being neglected or abused physically, emotionally, and or sexually by their parents or guardians. In the province of Newfoundland and Labrador, if you work with a young person and they tell you that they have been the target of online grooming, luring, sexual exploitation, that there's been a distribution of their private and personal sexual images and video, or an adult is sending them sexually explicit material, this is abusive behavior and has to be reported to the appropriate authorities. Be sure to stay calm, listen, allow them to share what has happened, and give space for how they're feeling. Once a disclosure has been made, it's important to call local law enforcement or your community child protective services. For cases where the child or youth has been maltreated by their parent or guardian, the information can be properly assessed and handled by professionals. In Newfoundland and Labrador, reporting child and youth maltreatment by a parent or guardian would be made to the Department of Children, Seniors, and Social Development, known as CSSD. And the number is 1-833-552-2368. Or you can call a local law enforcement in your community. If the young person has disclosed that they've been sexually exploited online and does not want to tell their parent or guardian, it's important that the young person knows that this is something their parent or guardian needs to become aware of, assuming that these adults are safe. Empathize that it can be really difficult to have these conversations with parents and guardians, but it is important in order to keep them safe. If a young person agrees to tell their parent or guardian, make sure to follow up with the parent or guardian and ensure they're doing everything on their end to keep the young person safe. If the parent or guardian are made aware and do not do anything to intervene or protect the young person, CSSD could get involved. If the young person is still unwilling, be transparent and let them know that you will have to contact the authorities so they can contact the home. Make sure they know that everything you're doing is in the interest of keeping them safe.